Retro.
Today's episode is brought to you by our patrons over at Patreon. That's right. Thank you so much to Eric, McCoy, Marjorie, Sir Zeke Corrector, and Leslie. Yes, patreon.com/Animanicast is where you can go to help support our show. And just for as little as $1 a month, or you can go a little bit higher for $4 or $10 per month and get some great bonuses, such as Creators Commentary with Tom Ruger and bonus audio for each week of the Animanicast, where we talk about, well, pretty much anything. It's all over at patreon.com/Animanicast, and thank you once again to our patrons. And welcome everybody to another episode of the Animanicast.
Now how am I going to buy your birthday present? I mean, how will Santa buy your birthday present?
I'm afraid you're a few reindeer short of a sleigh, Pinky.
And welcome everybody to the Animanicast. This is the podcast that's dedicated to the animated series Animaniacs, as well as other shows in the Rugerverse such as Tiny Toon Adventures, Pinky and the Brain, and Freakazoid. And here we talk about every episode in the series. We talk about all the cultural references and gags that we can find, and of course, we give every episode a Water Tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again are my co-hosts. There's my brother Nathan.
What's up, dog?
And across the country in Kelly, it's Georgia.
Canada.
No. In Canada. Across the country in Georgia, it's Kelly.
Hello.
I threw you off with my what's up, dog?
I probably sound really enthused. I'm just tired.
Kelly's had a wonderful week of sinus headaches and pain and steroid injections and not
I need
fun.
to move to a more humid climate, so definitely not Arizona for sure.
Yeah.
We have no humidity.
Here. No, zero humidity. My skin is very dry today. I need to get that moisturizer. It's not fun. Well, today maybe this will make you feel better? ? We're talking about episode 8 of the Animaniacs Reboot today. Yeah, and that includes 3 segments: the Warners with WhoDonut, the Mousechurian Candidate, and a new character set. New characters, Starbucks and Cindy. So, if you were to describe this episode in just a few words, what would you tell folks, Nathan?
We got new characters that are unlike any other characters we've ever seen before.
Sure. Kelly, what about you?
It made me want to eat a donut.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I've gotten some good designer donuts myself. Maybe we'll just talk about that today instead of the first
That sounds
segment.
like a good idea.
But Nathan, why don't you tell us when this? Well, we already know, of course, when this episode premiered. We know it premiered on November 20th of 2020. So we have our segment now. This is our world famous segment. And why is it world famous? Because our show is listened to around the world. So therefore, people know about it, and therefore it's famous. It's a world famous segment. November 20th trivia. Nathan, hit us with the November 20th trivia theme song.
11/20/2020. It's the day that the trivia takes place. 11/20/2020. It's the race that you go to race.
Yay!
That was great.
All right. Well, Nathan, what happened on November 20th? What's our what's our 20th trivia today?
These are some famous birthdays of 2020. Last week I did deaths. So this week we're doing birthdays though. And some of these are somewhat thematic to this coming week that we're listeners will hear. So we got famous birthday. We have Robert Kennedy, who was a brother to a president, and there's some presidential things in this episode. We had 1942. We had Joe Biden, who is our 46th president. He was born on November 20th. 1956, it's just Bo Derek, the actress Bo Derek. 1971, the actor Joel McHale was born on November 20th. So these are the 4 people I was like, I recognize those names.
Those are famous peoples.
Yeah, all on November 20th. Who
I was
knew?
shocked, and Joe Biden's getting inaugurated on the 20th too. So this is all 20. It's all connected.
It's all
I was surprised, happily surprised, that Bo Derek is still alive.
Oh,
For some reason, I thought Bo Derek had passed away.
She's not all that old, is she?
She's not.
1956.
I think I got her confused
64.
with Farrah Fawcett or something.
Oh, yeah.
And-
Because
and-
Farrah Fawcett did pass away some years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why. I was just like watching TV, and both me and my wife both went, "She's alive still? I thought she died." So there you go. It's nice when that happens. You see somebody, you're like, "Oh, I thought you died." It's a good thing I don't know her.
Mr. Rogers' wife passed away today.
Oh my God, that's sad. Well, then see, we were all talking
I'm
about
trying
how
to do
people are
birthdays.
Sorry.
We did deaths last week.
living. All right. Well, on that downer, let's go ahead and talk about. Let's go ahead and get to today's episode. So our theme song variable verse was "Illegal in Bahraini."
Illegal in Bahraini.
Is that true?
Is that true?
I don't know. Although it did make me.
We should have
think
done
about-
some research.
Although, yeah.
I assumed Joey was going to do it.
I could have done it, but I didn't. I don't think it is. I think it's, but who knows? I do think it's curious.
Do we have any listeners in Bahrain?
Ooh,
I mean, well, we wouldn't if it's illegal.
that's true. Ooh, maybe they're
But-
fighting the power.
Well, they can't legally say that they're listeners, but or whatever,
Yeah, if you're in Bahrain, fight the power. Listen to the Animanicast. I will say that every now and then we get like a YouTube copyright claim for playing a sound or a thing like that from an Animaniacs thing on YouTube. And it's from it's odd countries sometimes. It's like, your episode cannot be listened to anymore in Cuba, Syria, North Korea. And I'm like, what this? Like, I think it happened with King Yakko. It's just like, wow, those countries really don't like King Yakko. So
Wow.
it makes me kind of scratch my head. Like, I wonder if if Animaniacs, especially in certain countries where they have a regime powers that don't like you making fun of, powerhead figures, like maybe they're very anti-Animaniacs, perhaps. I don't know, but maybe it is illegal in Bahrain.
I don't know. I'm Googled it, but it's a question that many people have, and
Nobody knows. We should contact the Bahrain government.
yeah, the
Excuse
embassy.
me, we'd like to watch Animaniacs in your country. Can we do that? Well, let's go ahead and talk about our first segment featuring the Warners, and this is called WhoDonut. And WhoDonut was written by Greg White and Jess Lacker and Andrew Barpo, and it was directed by Katie Rice. And Nathan, why don't you tell us what happens here in WhoDonut?
Oh, goodness gracious. A crime is afoot. Wakko has missing donuts. Someone has eaten Wakko's donuts. Oh, my gosh. So, of course, the first suspects are Dot and Yakko because they were in the room when it happened, as Hamilton would say. I guess more like Aaron Burr would say. Anywho, but they couldn't have done it because they were on a blind date with 2 bats. So instead, they find an ant, which has a crumb. So they decide to follow the ant. And, wouldn't you know, it walks right by Ralph, who eats the crumb, takes it from the ant. So they think maybe Ralph ate the donuts. But no, Ralph is just a patsy. He doesn't know anything. He says, follow the money.
Well, if you didn't do it, then who did?
Follow the money.
Don't get smart with me.
I couldn't if I wanted to.
Poor Ralph. He's just a patsy.
That's right. Kaiser Sose. Red pill, blue pill. Forget it, Ralph. It's Chinatown.
So they drop him out of the building. They're somehow in the sky for some reason, and they're falling. And they give Ralph an anvil instead of a parachute. because that's comedy. And then they go to the top because they think it must be the CEO. So they go to Norita, and they ask her, "Hey, we know you took those donuts. We just want to know how high it goes." And they're like, "Hey." She's laughing maniacally.
The only question is, how high does this thing go?
One moment, please. You think I would risk my chance to make it to the singularity by eating refined sugar?
So
that doesn't make any sense, quite frankly. So they may have a deal where you can't put your brain into a computer if you eat sugar, or maybe eating sugar hurts your brain, so you can't.
It might be some other like spiritual. She's also macrodosing all the time, remember? And
yeah, that's true. Which may or may not be a drug reference, according to Nathan.
It could be a diet thing, I suppose.
I think it's a diet thing.
I still think
that's her. That's the quirk that the CEO has, is that she's obsessed with health and fitness. Yeah.
Meh. She did pull out some hair. I thought maybe she would do a Dr. Scratch and Sniff thing by the end of this.
Be bald by the end of the episode. That would be interesting.
It could happen. Well, then they decided to go back to square one, or back to the beginning, which is not the theme song, which you might think. Instead, they go back to the donut shop, and they ask the woman if someone's tried to sell some donuts or whatever, which of course not. So then they give up. Wakko ends up buying like 3 dozen donuts. He's eating a bunch of them. He has a sugar crash and passes out unconscious. And while he's unconscious, wouldn't you know it, he sleep eats more donuts. And Wakko and Yakko and Dot are like, what do we do now? So they go on a date with the bats again. And that's how the episode ends.
Yeah. They go on a blind date with bats. I didn't quite understand that concept.
Well, it's because bats are blind.
Yeah, they're blind as a bat. But are they going on blind bats? I mean, I guess it's a blind date because bats are supposed to be blind as a bat, and even if it's not they're just going on a double date. Is that essentially what it is? But they're calling it a blind date?
Dot's dating one of the bats, and Yakko's dating the other bat. It
didn't feel like that. It felt like the two bats were a couple, and the joke that I didn't like that joke.
And also what I didn't like at the end, when Dot tries to pour her tea, it's when she faces it not upside down that it starts pouring out. Like, because they're big twist. They're upside down the whole time.
Yes.
But the pot already is upside down, basically. And then she pours it upright, and then the tea starts coming out and pours on her face. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
I had to watch that. I had to watch that. I think it works. I
had to watch it too.
I watched, No, I rewatched that little pouring part, and it kind of made sense the way that if you're up, it went and fell out onto her face. It kind of did, but it also didn't. It kind of, again,
because it went out. It was as if I were holding it upside down, and I decided to pour it this way. Like pour it upwards above me, and then it started coming down on my face, which makes sense if it come down on my face.
But she poured her head. You have to rewatch it.
I think it's bad.
I think it works, but yeah. I hear you, Nathan, because again, I had to rewatch it because it didn't look right to me though. At the same point, that doesn't make any sense. What's going on? The physics of that didn't make sense to me. When I rewatched it, I said, okay, I think it kind of makes sense for cartoon physics, but it still was kind of annoying. Well, let's talk about some of the cultural references. I don't think really in the wiki on this, I don't think they really have many of the references in this, do they?
All they had was the first reference here was the WhoDonut was a reference to WhoDonut. And then I wrote these other ones. This is
guys, I know there's a lot of wiki editors that listen to the show. We got to get this page fixed. There's a lot of stuff in here, or at least there's a few. Let's talk
more than one thing.
More than one thing that happened. So let's talk about the cultural references. I guess the main thing is when Dot goes through this kind of like she names a bunch of stuff when she's talking to Ralph. So she says, "Follow the money." That's a reference to the movie.
Well, that was Ralph says, "Follow the money."
Follow the money. Okay, so you got to follow the money. That's a reference to All the President's Men, and with very timely dealing with Watergate and possible impeachments and things like that. But then she mentions Kaiser Sose, which that's from which movie is that for? That's the
Oh, it's not usual. The usual
Suspects.
suspects.
Usual
The usual ones.
Chinatown. That forget it. This is Chinatown. That's
I watched the end of that movie, so now I've got spoiled.
Forget it
because I was like, I've never seen this. I want to see what this is, and I was like, now I know how the movie ends.
Forget it, Nathan. It's Chinatown.
The last line of Chinatown.
Yeah,
I know.
Red pill, blue pill from the Matrix. So that's those are some references. Wakko does a Chumbawamba thing.
He takes a maple bite. He takes a squirting bite. He takes a frosted bite. He takes all his bites.
He takes the whiskey drink. He takes that
This
whole
is
thing.
Soundtrack of my life.
I do remember when that song came out. Our brother Nick bought the single for that, and that song played on repeat in our house for like a week.
Yeah. I think there was one day he like snuck out of the house and had it on like really loud, and we were like trying to knock on the door to tell him to turn it down, but he wasn't even home.
Oh no.
He had like climbed out the window or something.
And he wanted to make it look like he was still there.
Yeah, I think so.
So he thought this will make people think I'm here. I'm listening to Chumbawamba for 3 hours straight. I don't know if
it worked for a little while.
So Nick, so disappointed in you. So anyway, let's. That's I think that's pretty much it for the references. What were some things that you guys thought were funny or amusing in this one? Kelly, let's start with you.
Oh, I thought the different donut flavors were kind of interesting. Like maple. What did he say? Maple bacon or something? I don't even remember.
Which
what
I think
it was.
that's a real one, actually. But they were mentioning some other weird ones. Let's just put.
It sounded exotic and weird.
Squid Ink was one of those.
Yeah.
Which I would try.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
And I've tried ink pasta before. I think recently.
Ew.
Yeah, it was weird. It was black pasta. It was weird.
How did it taste?
Just like pasta, but it looked weird.
Maple bacon, tarragon fried chicken caramel, goat cheese, and just a soupçon of mustache cream. Oh no, Wakko, were these designer donuts?
Oh, I'm rewatching that last scene of the thing, and it's still the physics do not work at all. You lied to me, Joey.
Okay, whatever. I'm sorry. So the physics on the tea pouring does not work. But this is also the episode where we get the pun gun too. Remember this whole thing, and this has kind of made some people a little upset because they kind of see Yakko, not as a pun kind of person, but more of is a little bit more wit than the puns. What did you guys think of the puns and Dot just really just going after him, and in fact,
kills him
and shoots his ghost too, which is really.
And then she makes the punishment.
Yeah. Did you guys think that was funny, or did you think that was a little weird?
I wasn't a fan of it, but
weird.
Yeah. I didn't enjoy seeing Yakko's eye bulge out and his bone sticking out of his ear.
I did think it was funny that he kept going though, and
I guess
and playing on the word ant. I mean, he was committed to the gag.
That's true. I did think it was a different type of humor than Yakko than we're used to. He's not a dad joke kind of person, I don't think. And Dot certainly isn't the type of person that physically, at least traditionally, goes after people with violence, especially her brothers. But this is in the new show.
I mean, Wakko also participated too. He also shot a pun gun at Yakko to start off with.
Okay.
So it wasn't just Dot.
And I was about to say, this one thing when I was thinking back to this episode, I thought, at least this episode didn't have any gross stuff in it. But then I forgot, he had a bone sticking out of his ear.
And Ralph's mouth.
That's true.
Yeah, you go inside his mouth.
So there is some gross stuff in this. So they don't back down from that. And of course, there's more, the constant self-reference to the show of, with this one, talk about how predictable this ending was, with Wakko being the one who ate the donuts. Again, I'm kind of just over that at this point.
Yeah.
I'm like, with that stuff, it really kind of felt like, again, it felt like, why bring up the point that this is predictable, or like it's okay that it's predictable because we know it's predictable. Again, that.
And it seems like they didn't know how to end the episode, is how I felt when they just are back at dinner with the bats, which.
Yeah, let's just do that again. Let's just do that cutaway again. That felt kind of Family Guy-ish, didn't it? Like the whole
that bat joke felt like a Family Guy joke, and them talking at the same time, I feel like was a Family Guy joke, wasn't it? And they're like, "That's what I was gonna say." Wait, root beer, lamppost. My favorite color is,
Yeah, that maybe
is that a Family? Like I know I've seen it on a cartoon.
Wacko ate his own donuts!
That is so
Predictable. That's what I was gonna say. It was. Beef Wellington, Belgium. My favorite color is lamppost. Whoa.
And I was trying to think if it was Family Guy or not.
I thought it was amusing, but
yeah, it's funny. I'm not saying it's not funny, but I know I've seen it before. Which I mean, everything's from like Simpsons. I'm sure did it because Simpsons
exactly. There's certain things on Family Guy that I've seen the Simpsons do, or vice versa, and so it doesn't necessarily mean that they're copying. They're just minds think alike sometimes.
But yeah, when you have a creator of Family Guy, and I go,
you're bound to think like this is that's
I'm like,
the connection.
Did you take it like I've heard? Like it's not even stealing because it's like your own thing. I don't know.
Listen up, everybody. It's time for spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning? Oh, not again. That was weird. Boy, that was weird too.
If we all pitch in, we'll be done in no time.
Mom, I can't clean. I got stuff to do.
Sweetheart, we all know you don't have any stuff to do. Now, I don't want to hear any more excuses from anyone.
Ah, crap. We did it again. Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ooh.
I will say that I did like the Animaniacs playing cards that Dot kept giving. I was like, oh, those are cute. I want those. I'd like to see some more Animaniacs merchandise like that. That would be cool. I would buy a deck.
Yeah, they should. I mean, I haven't really seen much at all. You would think with the reboot.
Zero. I mean, yes, there's the pandemic, but still, you'd think there'd be something. I'm sure there will be next summer or by season 2. We'll start to see stuff. Right now, we were having this talk before recording about how in Hot Topic, there's just nothing but bad shirts and stuff that are just like print to order, and for the majority of them, it's just clip art, so that's not
cool. I wouldn't buy them.
But that's about all the stuff I had. Other than the last note I had when I was writing, it was, we just had a mystery episode. Why are we doing 2 in a row?
Another one.
It's like we just had one. Although I will say that I liked this mystery episode more than the previous one. So take that for what it's worth. It was
funnier.
Yeah.
I liked the Wakko speaks Spanish at one point, which is fun. And
they kind of it kind of reminded me of Buzz Lightyear a little bit, changing his language and stuff. Yeah.
But and the ant looking over his shoulder every time they have to sneak around was a little fun too. Just the sneak. But I don't know. I wanted to say those. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Well, let's go ahead and get to our Pinky the Brain segment then. And the Pinky the Brain segment's called Mousechurian Candidate. And the Mousechurian Candidate, which is, by the way, it's a cultural reference to Manchurian Candidate. By the way,
that was the only note in the wiki again. So.
Yes. It's a story by Jess Lacker and Andrew Barbeau, and the teleplay was by Kathleen Chen and Brian Polk, and it was directed by Katie Rice. And Kelly, why don't you tell us what happens here in the Mousechurian Candidate?
Alrighty. Well, Brain has a new idea to take over the world, and he wants to be president, so, he can be in charge, but he thinks that he needs a first lady. So he creates one, and it's, he starts throwing in things like, Jackie O's pearls and Hillary Clinton's pantsuit and Barbara Bush's memoir written from her dog's perspective, which wasn't the dog named Millie. I remember.
I think that sounds right.
So that shows you where my priorities are. I remember the names of the animals.
There was Socks the cat after that.
Yeah.
And then I think Bo was the dog and with Obama.
Yeah. And Major, was it Champ and Major or the two new
Major
ones coming in?
Yeah, zero with Trump's presidency.
Yeah.
not even a
goldfish,
even an ant farm or goldfish or sea monkeys or anything.
Yeah.
You have to try naming sea monkeys. Oh,
Despite my obvious brilliance, there's one thing I've overlooked. My first lady. Nancy Reagan's pearls. Hillary Clinton's pantsuit. Jackie O's hat.
Are we doing a spell? Are we witches now?
Be quiet, Pinky, and hand me the final ingredient. Barbara Bush's memoir, written from her dog's perspective.
So he's throwing in all this stuff, and Wham Bam has altered this mouse, and now she is intelligent. And she agrees to be his wife, but she wants her own bank account, and she's already told her parents that they're going to their place for Thanksgiving, and Brain's like, maybe a little too much, Hillary. So she's a very much a woman of her own mind, apparently, and so he's going to use her to try to win over people, but first he's got to become a senator, and there's a special election, and they go and then he's also doing like PR things, but she's tending to outshine him. She can kiss the babies and make them smile, and Brain doesn't like kids, and she's posing for all the photo ops and everything. So when they have the election, she actually wins. They've written in her name.
This is it, Pinky. In just a few moments, I'll be announced senator.
Well, folks, with all districts reporting, the winner is Julia Brain.
What? How is this possible?
Julia received 97% of all votes cast as a write-in. In second place, another write-in for Up Dog. What's Up Dog?
And at first, he's okay with that. He's got to change his plan a little bit, but he's written a speech for her, and as long as she follows his lead, everything's going to go okay. And he hands her a speech, and she goes off on her own, and because he's talking about like weapons and destruction and killing children, basically, and she's not cool with that. So she rips up the speech and says, she's gonna do her own thing. And then he had implanted a mind control chip in her and starts to activate it. And, says, you're gonna do what I tell you to do. And when she's at the debate for the presidential election, he keeps zapping her, and she is completely losing control. She can't even form a coherent sentence. She's trying to keep her personality and override what he's doing, and she ends up looking like something from Secret of Nim or something. It's like this scary mouse.
One of the rats or something. Or
yeah.
Their teeth are sharp and
it's creepy.
Here's what you think, you
well-informed voter whose opinions are
wackier than a quack.
Things are getting out of hand. Time to regain control.
All this time I've been manipulated by a tyrant.
But isn't the real tyrant high fructose corn syrup? That's why my platform is to
Eat the children!
She ends up finally just running away and fleeing. And Pinky wonders what's happened to her, and Brain thinks that, when the chip caught fire, it did damage to her cerebral cortex. And he doesn't sound like he cares. But then we see that she's running around in the woods, forest, whatever. And she looks like a normal mouse. But then she goes in this little hole in a tree, and she's got her own little mission control center there. And she's got a direct video link to the lab, and she's watching what Pinky and the Brain are doing. So now she's off on her own, and she's still super intelligent. And something to maybe look out for in future episodes. I don't know.
I think that is she's got to be in season 2. Like,
yeah,
she's got to be coming back, right? Anyway, well, very interesting episode. I can't wait to get into our discussion about this particular part in just a few moments, but let's go over the cultural references, at least to some of them that I could note real quick when I was watching it. So they talk about tasting the Rockies at one point. That is, I believe, a reference to the Coors beer, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Yeah, they talked about Svengali. He talks about Rasputin and Dick Cheney, who are kind of behind the scenes of leaders, kind of telling them what to do. Mm-hmm. Of course, Rasputin with the Tsar, and then Dick Cheney with George W. Bush. And he also said over that other Svengali man whose name I don't. Who
was? I didn't know who that was about.
And I was like, okay, so what? That one was confusing because I thought, like, in order for me to laugh or get this joke, I need to have at least some idea who you're talking about, and I didn't understand.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because the guy's name was Svengali. So when he said that Svengali guy that I can't remember his name, I thought he was referring to his name was Svengali.
Svengali, yeah, it was just perhaps it. It was just.
That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, I think that's a good interpretation. It was still kind of a joke that made me kind of scratch my head though at the same time. Anyway, there was a line right there that Julia says that's kind of like put a mouse in the White House.
I think it's about time we put a mouse in the White House.
Very similar to the song that came out on Kids WB around the 1996 election, which was Put the Right Mouse into the White House.
Oh,
and they had like kind of a promotional campaign with the Brain, and there was great bumper stickers and
Ooh, I googled
pins.
Svengali.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so a Svengali is a person who controls another's mind or has the ability to control others. But there was also a 1891 Gothic horror novel, and in it, a character named Svengali is a hypnotist who transforms the title character into a famous singer.
So there you go. That's where the origin is from, a fictional book, I guess. So there you go. Okay. All right. Well, it's still, it makes me just go, okay, I don't.
Yeah, the Svengali chap. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just like,
because I was like, you're not talking about the current administration. Like, at first I thought, are they talking about the Trump administration? But I don't think anybody thinks that Mike Pence is a Svengali to Donald Trump. So that didn't make any sense.
Maybe there's some other Svengali chap we don't know about.
We're talking about the deep state.
Yeah.
Let's go. So there's some little cool things in this. Like, I really liked how Julia's tail kind of has a little heart shape to it. She even talks about like speaking from the heart and not from the brain, which she's talking about the brain right there. But that was kind of cool.
She seems so nice.
Yeah.
Very likable.
Yeah. And there's a lot of fidget spinners in this episode, which a couple of years ago, yeah, they were pretty popular. Now, and I couldn't get them out of my kids' hands at the school. But today, I don't think fidget spinners are that popular. But there are a lot in this episode.
I wonder if there was a they didn't really talk about the fidget spinners.
I didn't understand why they had the fidget spinners so much in this one.
Yeah, I wonder if there was a deleted line or something at some point where they're like, "Oh, let's give out fidget spinners."
Yeah, or maybe it's the other candidate who was popping out hats for everybody, that she also had fidget spinners for people.
No, because the fidget spinners were from Julia and Brain. Like, they were walking through a factory of fidget spinners before that. Like,
yeah.
So maybe, what it might be is that her speech might be given at a fidget spinner factory.
Okay.
That might be the whole joke.
Okay. Again, another scratch my head moment. Like, why are they doing this?
They didn't really explain it,
Yeah. And there's a Rachel Maddow caricature called Raquel Mad Cow.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a host of news on MSNBC. News/commentary, we'll call her. Anyway, so that was pretty much for cultural references, unless you guys found anything else that I didn't mention. Anything else?
Nah.
That's
it.
That was it. Okay, well, what were some things in this that you... we should mention one other kind of cool little fact that Steve and Julie Bernstein had mentioned when they were on our show a few weeks ago. And that was that Julia's theme... What did they say about her theme? That it's
like
kind
if
of
you
like...
play it side by side or backwards with...
or backwards?
It's some like... Well, if you play it next to the Brain's theme song, like it's an inverse of his song.
Yes.
So it's kind of like they tie together.
So if the Brain is do 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 do, I'm assuming it's Pinky and the Brain, even though right? I think that's.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily his theme, but I mean, like it's his song whenever he comes on.
Right.
I don't know
if he's walking around or doing stuff, you usually hear dun, dun, dun,
yeah.
Dun. So there's a couple parts where Julia, you can hear that theme. So I'll at least play a little bit of it right here, so we can kind of hear that, and maybe if somebody's really musically inclined and you can kind of figure out how it matches up or whatever, I'd love to hear how it, matches up with the Brain's theme.
Hello, world. It's an honor to be here.
Wonderful. J37, from the moment I set eyes on you 20 minutes ago, I wanted to edit your DNA against your will and ask you one question. Will you be my first lady?
Yay! So she has a theme that, she's a new character. So we wrote a theme. And what are you?
But it's in counterpoint with the Pinky and the Brain theme.
It works in. So if you play it with the Brain's theme, if you play them at the same time, they work together.
And we did that intentionally because
they're harmonically
they do
harmonically
go
fit.
Exactly. They go up against each other, so that when they are played together, you have that effect. And it's a Mozartian, Wagnerian kind of thing. They used to do the same kind of thing. And I know that at the beginning we harmonized Julia's theme in a kind of very sweet, innocent, happy kind of way, and then as she developed in the story,
she became minor.
She became minor and matched the Pinky and the Brain harmony.
Yeah, as opposed to major.
And that's fun for us. We hope that subliminally it may be effective. I think so.
So. What did you guys think about this? We have some listener commentary that I'll get to in just a few moments, but I want to know what you guys thought about this one, because this was when we initially watched these episodes for the media release. This was one of the episodes, and this is one that, without spoiling anything, I was going, "Wow, this was really dark.
This was dark, yeah."
And the Brain this wasn't fun. For me, I never thought I'd see an episode of Pinky and the Brain that I liked and hated so much because of the scene with Julia. And Brain just was a villain to me, in my opinion. That he was just mean, and I didn't like him at all.
Well, he even tells her he wanted to edit her DNA against her will.
Yeah, that's his first introduction, which was like, okay, like, I mean, yeah, as a mouse, you don't really have a will, I guess.
Yes, yeah, it is weird, like starting off with experimentation on her and doing something like Dr. Moreau. You know what happened to Dr. Moreau? He did all that experimentation on the thing, and he gets killed by all the people who's doing experiments on, making him half human, half animal.
Well, and Frankenstein's monster kills everybody,
Yeah, so
he doesn't actually really kill Frankenstein. He kind of dies of his own grief, I guess. But I mean, he enacted vengeance on everybody, so it's not a good thing to experiment on people.
Yeah, so all of a sudden the Brain is more of a bad scientist character and more of a villain than he's been in a lot of episodes. But the part right there with Julia really being electrocuted and shocked and just in agony and pain, and they're animating her face and her hair goes on fire. I didn't like that part. I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
I didn't find it funny. Like watching this, I'm just like I I don't know. Even today, I was like, here, I'll try to like laugh at this. And I'm just like, this isn't funny.
You know me, I'm pretty twisted, but it was difficult to watch, really. And I know it's just a cartoon, but, you know, she was such a nice, likable character. And she's literally getting tortured.
And the Brain is even though he's a guy who wants to take over the world, he's a likable character.
Yeah.
He should be.
His speech that he had written for Julia, I thought was way too dark with the kids building bombs because their tiny hands are perfect for. I'm just like
that reminded me of Schindler's List. I don't know if y'all but he's trying to convince the Germans that he needs the children because their hands are so small that they can clean. I clean out some of the equipment or something.
He was doing it for
good.
No,
that was. But it brought to mind Schindler's List. And I'm like, I don't want to be thinking about Schindler's List watching a cartoon.
We're going to teach children... Wait, what?
Their tiny hands are the perfect size for intricate weaponry.
Their tiny hands are perfect.
Come on, say it.
Perfect. For building a better tomorrow.
So it wasn't... I mean, we've talked... I think it was on... Dragon Con, where Maurice LaMarche had talked about how there were certain things that happened in the reboot that he disagreed with the way that they were writing the character. And I gotta think this has got to be one of those moments where the Brain, who he knows, I mean, he's been doing this character for over 20, 30, almost 30 years now. Mm-hmm. He knows this character more than a lot of people on Earth do. And for them to be writing him like a Stewie Griffin kind of character who, used to in the early seasons of Family Guy.
Yeah, Stewie wasn't even that bad at the end now. He's just
Stewie wanted to take over the world like in every episode of the first or second season. And it was, to me, I always thought, look, are they just copying Pinky and the Brain? Well, now it's come back full circle. And now his Brain's doing Stewie things where he's trying to bomb places and stuff like that and take over the world through force sometimes and violence, and violence like this. It reminded me, this little segment reminded me a little bit of Jessica Jones, where it's like you have this character, David Tennant's character in Jessica Jones, is the absolute villain, horrible, horrible character, who took advantage of Jessica Jones and hypnotized her to do, or influenced her to do whatever he wanted her to do. Like horrible things.
Yeah.
And to see that kind of duplicated, or at least me thinking about that in a cartoon, not funny. Not cool.
Well, I mean, of course, in the Manchurian Candidate, it's all about the Shin who's been controlled that doesn't know he's been mind controlled to assassinate someone, right? That's like, I've seen it once.
If you say
so
a word,
obviously,
right? Isn't it the thing, like the Manchurian Candidate, if a word is said, then the Manchurian Candidate goes into attack mode.
He's an incel and he activates, and so like just based on the title, there's going to be some mind control or something like that. But still, it's just like, it was not fun to watch.
Yeah. Well,
I would have preferred if it was a parody more of like a House of Cards or something. They could have done Mouse of Cards.
Mouse of Cards.
Boom. Done.
Maybe that's the next. Maybe that's the one for when she comes back.
But yeah, then they'll have to get back together and things like that. But that'd be a more interesting thing. Like seeing the Brain as a House of Cards kind of character would be really fun.
I would like to see it flipped where she does become like he has to listen to her and him kind of like not being uncomfortable with that and stuff. Instead, he doesn't go for it at all and in fact punishes her. For being different, and I would like that. I don't know. Brain is supposed to be funny to me.
Yeah.
And even though he's trying to take over the world, he's supposed to be funny. I thought things that Pinky did was funny.
Yeah, I thought the picking up the coffee was funny. Like I went to go and they kept saying Pinky for Pinky, and I'm like, no, it's for Julia. And
yeah. I mean, at the end, he's putting salt in Brain's coffee.
When it's Brain's like, if you want to do something right, do it yourself. Make me some coffee. And then, of course, it's done wrong.
Yeah. The Brain is just not... He's not supposed to be like this. And I got to bring up something here that was brought up in our Discord group. And, of course, if you'd like to join our RetroZap Discord group and talk about Animaniacs, you can go to Discord www.animanicast.com and joined the conversation over there. And this, Mark said it would be okay for me to talk about it, what he brought up about a month ago in our Discord. And I remembered it because it was good points. So Mark Aaron, a.k.a. That's Art Folks on Twitter, says, I just want to say episode 8 with Pinky and the Brain is absolutely awful to me. Brain is straight up torturing Julia. It's not cute. It's not funny. And Brain is an absolute villain in this episode. The way they portray Julia's suffering is over the top horrifying. It honestly diminishes Brain as a character to me. I honestly have a hard time watching it. And that he's found it upsetting and kind of confusing with people's reactions to this episode, because a lot of people talk about Julia and how much they love Julia. And I see a lot of fan art for Julia and how much they like it, like her character, which I agree, but they kind of overlook the full cartoon, I think, which is, I think, disappointing for me, because it's like, that's not, anyway. There was a general discussion about how the Brain, has done some villainous or weird things before evil. In the past. Yeah, and Drew, who's one of our commenters right there, he's fantastic. He's actually one of the folks who does wiki editing, and he listed off a ton of things that Brain has done in the past that could be considered villainous, at least in his mind. And he kind of listed these off real quick. So he tried flinging billions of Earth sentient life into the cold, empty void of space while he duct tapes himself and Pinky to be safe and jockey for position. He joined in on a cigarette company's plan to manipulate children into smoking, but he stopped himself and inherit the wheeze. He evicted all of Pittsburgh just so he could steal their steel mills and where the mouselopes roam. He tried freezing the world's leaders and where rodents dare. He expressed a desire to reduce the public into slaves, the Pinky candidate. He showed no concerns about his students' well-being when two of them were in a fight, outright saying, "Who cares?" and dangerous brains. He tried attacking the public with giant vegetable monsters to forcefully take control and brain acres. He regularly employs hypnosis to manipulate the public. He tried flooding the entire world beneath the 39th floor, leaving thousands to drown in something called in the episode called The Fly. And he says, Brain's always had good and bad traits, but nothing too deep like Mousechurian Candidate, but this shows his bad side too. And Mark went on to say he's incompetent. That's the point. He never succeeds in doing what he wants. But
he's insane. He's no genius.
Yeah, in this episode, he is straight up torturing somebody.
Well, and his plans are usually absurd to the point of ridiculousness, and so they're funny in their own right. I mean, just because they're so off the wall. But yeah, this is a little darker than that.
Well, yeah, like I'm thinking that one where the flinging everyone into space, his plan was to stop the rotation, which he thought then they would turn off the gravity, and like that doesn't even work.
It's a lot different. I mean, and that's exactly one of the other points that Mark put in the chat as well, that it's not the same as giant vegetables taking over the Earth. This is straight up torture, and this is like something it somehow felt more real, I suppose, because I could see like, we know what it looks like when people get electrocuted and are in agony, and to see it done like this, I don't know. I'm actually surprised that more people aren't outraged by it than I was and Mark was. Because I just didn't think it was in character for Brain, and I certainly didn't feel it was we have the first strong, really female character mouse that I can remember off the top of my head for Pinky and the Brain. And the Brain is just masochistic towards her. Like, it's horrible. So I did not like that. And I felt bad. Like, should I not like the Brain anymore? Should I not like his schemes? Is this what we're trying to say? That he's just a horrible being? Not cool. Well, if we're all
on that happy note.
Let's go ahead and get to our last quick segment here, and this is Starbucks and Cindy.
Planets meeting warlords, raging on grimlords. Conquest of Earth led by dire commander Starbucks. When he finds a planet where beings are rife, we descend and consume all the sentient life. When he sends the signal, we start the invade. Until then, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting.
And so Starbucks and Cindy was written by Jess Lacker, and it was directed by Katie Rice. And in this, well, have you ever seen a little cartoon called Pinky and the Brain? Or I should say Pinky, Elmira and the Brain. Well, it's kind of the same as this. At least that's what I thought initially seeing it. This time it's an alien who wants to take over the world and is kind of, well, he lands or kind of ends up in the custody of a little girl named Cindy, who is a 5-year-old, and she will not let Starbucks get outside to press the button that lets all the other aliens who are ready to attack Earth know to, because she keeps grabbing him and putting dresses on him and treating him like a little toy. And that's pretty much it. I better go into the very specific things that she does, but she just keeps catching him and tormenting him. And that's the joke.
Do you want a cookie? Cookies are sweet. Cookies are so sugary. I want to tell you something. I love you.
And the aliens are still out there waiting for him to press that button. This is a segment with new characters. What did you guys think about it?
It definitely reminded me of Pinky and Elmira and the Brain.
Why would they do Pinky and Elmira and the Brain? I guess because it's not Pinky and the Brain, but it seems like that's always the one, like with fans, they always like badmouth. Oh, that one.
Yeah, and I know we were all alluding to this when we were talking about the new, like similar to another segment, but we never. I don't know if we ever mentioned it to each other.
We all knew. We all knew it was like Pinky, Elmira, and the Brain.
Reading the wiki for Cindy, do you want to hear some things about her specifically? I thought this was funny. I don't know who wrote this, but so Cindy's a young girl with long red hair, rosy cheeks, and a nightgown with a picture of a cat on it and a color scheme similar to Elmira Duff. She's always barefoot. Like, she's only been in one segment.
Always.
Cindy is much like Mindy from previous series and Elmira Duff from Tiny Toon Adventures, being
they're
a
both
young
girls.
Yeah,
and they're both
playful
young.
girl who always smothers animals with a playful affection. She's also a tendency to talk a lot and drag on long conversations. So she's similar to Colin, aka the Randy Beeman King, due to her rambling way of speech and childlike talking mannerisms.
I did like how apparently this was like real kid talking, though. It felt like they just recorded her talking.
That's exactly what it sounded like.
It's the niece of the director. I put it in the show notes.
So I liked that. I thought that
Katie
was
Rice's
cute.
niece.
Yeah.
Because I was like, there's no way this was scripted. Because it was so stream of consciousness. It was cute.
They say there was some partial script, but it was...
okay.
But I'm sure it's basically like, do you want to wear a dress now kind of thing? But
yeah, exactly. Like it's just
or do you want to go outside? Like ask if you want to go. Yeah. So I think there's lines that they wanted her to say, but most of the part they just had her talk. It's mostly improvised.
But yeah, it was there. I guess I wasn't offended by anything in this one.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that about the last one. But I just didn't. I thought it was cute, but I didn't necessarily think it was funny. What did you think about it, Kelly?
I haven't made up my mind. I kind of like the theme song. It's different, quirky. It did feel, a little familiar. Sort of the same kind of stuff that we've seen before. But like I said, I thought the stream of consciousness of the little girl's chatter was kind of different. And Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just based on the one little segment, not I'm not entirely sure one way or the other, but it's weird.
It was weird. Nathan, any other things you'd like to say about this Starbucks and Cindy before we get to our water tower rating?
He almost pushed the button. That bird.
I pushed the button.
Yeah. Ah. See, that's another reference that they should have put in the wiki. He's like Lucky Duck because he lets to push a button. Oh wait, that's the wrong.
Well, at any rate, let's go ahead and get to our water tower rating. Well, out of 5 water towers, how many would you give this episode of the Animaniacs Reboot? Nathan, let's start with you.
Okay. I gave last week's a 2, and I think I like this one a little bit less. So I'm going to 1.5.
Wow. Why do you like this one less?
I really didn't find really any of the segments that funny. Just seeing Julia get tortured really hurt that episode a lot. Like, I think it made it hard to rewatch again and again, and each time I'm watching it I'm just liking it less and less. So.
I will say I did not watch this one again and again. I only watched it once because probably same things. I just didn't like to see Julia get hurt like that. Kelly, what about you?
Well, I definitely liked this episode better than the one from last week, but I think I was pretty brutal for last week. I think I'll go with 2.5, since I liked it better than the previous one. And even though we had issues with Pinky and the Brain, I thought it was strongly written. The jokes that were funny, I think, landed very well. And Pinky was hysterical, like always. And he was very true to form. And, like I said, I'm still kind of on the fence about Starbucks, but I like the theme song. It's just so weird and very different. So I guess 2.5 would be good.
I'll give it a 2.5 as well. I mean, the Pinky and the Brain thing, it bothers me a lot, but the first Warner segment was fine. and the Starbucks and Cindy is fine. I didn't necessarily think they were incredibly funny, so it's kind of just a kind of middle of the road. I kind of want, you know what? No, forget it. I'm going to, because I just last minute change. Because again, whenever I think of that Julia getting tortured, I just am not cool with it. So.
Yeah, you can always compare it to the first episode, Joey. You gave it 2.5, so you could say, is it better or worse than that first episode?
You know what? I can't do it. I can't do that with this series because I'm just up and down. I can't compare it. I can't keep my mind straight. I literally just have to kind of go with my gut, and I'm going to go with 2, just because it really made me feel like after watching it, like this isn't the Brain. That's not the Brain. It's. I'm not cool with how they treated Julia, and I'm not cool with how they treated the Brain. Or making me not like him in this episode, at least. You know, it hurt his character, and that wasn't cool. Not cool. So 2. So let's go ahead and get to our contact information. Nathan, where can people get in contact with you online?
Hey, Joey, I'm on Twitter, JangoFT. That's me.
All right, and Kelly, what about you?
I'm also on Twitter, Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS, or email me, Kelly@BigShinyRobot.com.
All right, and as for the Animanicast, we're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and now Patreon. You can become a patron of the Animanicast, and you can just donate as little as $1 a month, or you can give a little bit extra, and you can get awesome extras like, audio commentaries from Tom Ruger, bonus audio clips of us talking about stuff, and much, much more. It's all over at patreon.com/Animanicast. If you want to join the conversation about Animaniacs, head on over to discord.animanicast.com, and you can join the Discord server for RetroZap. There's a lot of great areas in there. You can chat about anything pop culture, and a great positive place to be. And we're a proud member of the RetroZap podcast community, so join over there and subscribe to the RetroZap podcast feed. That way you can get every single podcast from RetroZap, including this one, delivered straight to your device for free. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. So for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, Freakazoid, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds are registered trademarks and or copyrights of their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animanicast unless otherwise indicated.
Maybe we need to go back to the beginning.
It's time for Animaniacs.
No, stop!